everyone, and welcome to another sketchbook tour. My name is Jessica, and today I'm going to show you guys a relatively old sketchbook. I have plenty to show you guys, and you guys voted on Instagram for another sketchbook tour, so here we are. And if you guys have not yet subscribed to my channel, click that subscribe button, and let's jump right in. So I did this sketchbook in 2016 to 2017. And this is, by the way, the Stillman and Byrne Delta series, so the paper has a little bit of a tint to it. Now, on the first spread, I did a bunch of fruits in watercolor. I always try to add a little bit of fun to the beginning pages of my sketchbook, and you know, when you start a sketchbook, you get super excited. So I also write an email and my name, so if it's lost, please return to my email and they'll email me. I actually have had someone return. If you've watched my other video, I've mentioned that. And I did this sketchbook in January 2016 to April 2017. So I really love these fruits. They were super fun to paint. Kind of did like a little pattern spread. Love this little blueberry. And yeah, just a little fun, exciting, colorful page for the beginning. On this next spread, I did I think it was like a quote. I was feeling super emotional and excited, so I wrote, "At what time in your recent past life have you felt most passionate and alive?" I always like to get myself thinking, so I painted this in watercolor and experimented with a little bit of texture with the acrylic in the back, and I do this in a lot of other spreads before. Alright, here I printed out a map on like some crappy paper, I think, and over it I drew a portrait profile because I felt like I was having trouble with the profile view, the side view, and so I practiced that here in this spread. And I really like how it came out. If you guys are ever lost, I really recommend printing out maybe a pattern and drawing over it. It's a lot of fun. Okay, here I did a little study in watercolor. I think I was trying to do a limited color palette with just yellows. And again, here we are with another quote. "Have you ever seen insanity where you later saw creativity? Why are you, you?" Wow, that's deep. Looking back at this now is kind of funny. But I got myself thinking with these challenging quotes and added them to my art, which I felt, gave it a little bit some personality. Okay, for this spread, I was doing a lot of practice with portraits and expressions. I had a book on expressions, so I was practicing with little limited color palettes here. And oh, Happy New Year, I guess it was New Year. And yeah, I used to love markers, and I still do. I should get back into them. Here I did a lot of ink work, some practice with portraits, and of course the tool of the day was my eraser. And in this portrait, I think I was FaceTiming with my friend and I didn't like how it came out, so I like crossed it out. But it's okay. I like these doodles over here. Alright, let's move on. So here I did a study of some figures. I used to love figure painting. I still practice it a lot, but at this point I was really trying to get it done in my sketchbook. And here I was looking at some Michelangelo portraits, and I love how he uses the brown sienna colored pencil to do his portraits, so I did a study of a portrait right here. I think it came out pretty cool. And moving on, so this is watercolor, and this was just a regular brown colored pencil, like a burnt sienna color. On this spread, I felt I had this idea in mind of a boy who comes to fix a city and build it from scratch, and it was like a big dumpster, and he came and fixed it and rebuilt it. So this is actually him coming in on a snailmobile. I saw these two references on Pinterest, I believe, and just tried to put them together to see if I could come up with another idea or try to work it out some way. And I actually did this piece in a larger format, and I did it on a bigger ivory piece of paper. It's almost like 18 by 24, so it's a bit larger than this. But this is where the idea originated from. So that was pretty cool. Alright, so here's another study I did in my sketchbook with my paints in watercolor. And this was also a reference. I just tried to practice. It was just simply for practice. And yeah, I love the colors. I love the patterns. I really enjoyed her. Like, I thought her portrait was beautiful. So that was just another. And I tried to play around with the composition, flipping my sketchbook and painting it long ways. All right, moving on. And this is probably one of my favorite spreads. This was actually a vacation that I started in, let's see, January 19th. I was on vacation on a cruise, and this was one of the islands that we stopped at. And I actually had a really bad fever this day, and I actually went out to the rooftop and painted this view. It was so beautiful, and I had an awesome time painting. So painting usually makes me feel better, so if I'm feeling under the weather, I still go out and paint. Moving on, I basically did a little snippet to capture each island and a little bit of a fun, picture that I found or that I took from the trip and put it in my sketchbook to capture the memories, as I usually do, if you guys saw my other sketchbook tours. So this was Tortola Island, and I did this little kind of like Polaroid, wanted to box it out. It was a beautiful palm tree. I actually took this photo myself and put it in my sketchbook. And this was a little cute boat I saw at St. Martin, and it was a really beautiful day out, and I remember this perfectly, and I wanted to add a little bit of a vignette, a little reflection, and just a quick little study. Okay, on the next island, I saw this guy. He was playing the drums. Actually, I think he was a younger boy, and he actually said to me, "You look 16, can I have your Facebook?" And I was like, that's so funny. So I recorded it in my sketchbook to save that memory, which was interesting. But next up, I have a study that I did of a famous artist. I forgot who this was. I have to take a look. But I did it just to see how the brushstrokes work and learn how this master puts his brush on the paper to make sure that I have tried to master it. I came nowhere near it, but it was a good try. Okay, on this spread, I have a bunch of portrait studies that I did in some ballpoint pens and acrylic, and I was just doing some texture practice here and just little doodles that I have going on of people. All of these watercolor portraits and figure drawings were done from life. When I went to art school, we had models come into the classroom and pose for us for about 15 to 20 minutes each. Some varied and some were quicker than the others, but this was some of the practice that I did in watercolor on the spot from the model. I don't know what happened. I didn't include his face too much here. Maybe I was focusing too much on the body. But yeah, I started with black and white and then started with some limited colors over here. And on this spread, I did one portrait in cool colors and another portrait in warm colors. I was really trying to practice the limited colors here, which I still do, and I really recommend you guys practice limited colors. They really, if you have a tendency to use all colors, which I feel like I do, I limit myself and try to really challenge myself to create one portrait with limited color palettes. And I really like how these guys came out. Now for these, I basically painted, this was a view outside of my college in New York. I was in art school, and this was a view on one of my lunch hours. I went out and painted. When everyone's relaxing, I'm outside painting, but it's fun and I love it. This was a view from another building and on campus. And this was basically a planning page for a portrait I did for an assignment. We were supposed to pick a celebrity and incorporate them into a big piece. So I chose Chance the Rapper, and I'll show you guys the final piece right here. You guys will take a look, and yeah, I did a little bit of a different view for the final piece, but it's always good to look at where you started from, because sometimes these ideas in your sketchbook, you can bring it back to next new pieces. Okay, here, a little different. I actually ate so much that day for dinner, and I was like, let me just draw my feelings. So I felt like this little full dragon that just had a full belly of food. I love food. I love eating. So I decided to draw him in my sketchbook. And this was just a little fashion illustration. Wanted to play around with patterns, colors, and again, limited color palette on her. I was just experimenting lots and lots. Another full spread of drawings and paintings of people from life. These are actually all gouache and some watercolor as well. These are all poses of people or models, and I just tried to focus on an interesting composition, and that's it. So a lot of practice with my watercolors here. On this spread, I was like, I've never really used purple before, so let's try to use purple on all these drawings. So I had a ballpoint pen in purple, and I did this model drawing from life. It was a bit, I think, 20-minute drawing in watercolor. And this was another expression practice portrait with purple and brown. So I just used those two to make that portrait. On this spread, I sat at the New York Botanical Garden, it was a beautiful day out. They had just opened they had a little, I think this was one of the gardens, and the exhibit was inside of here. So once I finished the exhibit of the orchids, I came outside and painted this view. And I really like how it came out. Another spread of figure drawings and figure paintings of people from life. And I believe that drawing from life is super important and it's great practice. I was doing a lot of it here. This was just a model, and I had a close-up of her face here and the figure, painted the figure, and this was another drawing that I did of another model, which I did a little bit further away and a little bit of close-up. Tried to create a nice composition here. These completely different actually were just doodles out of my head. I was doing a lot of reference drawing, I was doing a lot of figure drawings from life, and I figured, why don't I just sit down and try and doodle what comes out of my head? And this is what happened, guys. So I thought this was pretty cool. Just all ink, and some stories started to come out of it. And if you guys watched my other video on ways to fill a sketchbook, doodling is a great way to get some stories and ideas out, and I think that's exactly what was coming out of this. On this spread, I was really fascinated with like head wraps at the time. I still am, I love them. And I wanted to incorporate just a limited color palette with like purples and red, like pop of color. And I did this spread of a profile view because, again, I thought I struggled with it and I wanted to practice it some more. But this one came out pretty cool too. Another spread of practice from life. This was all models again, 20-minute poses, figure drawings with pastel, I believe. This was, or colored pencil, and a little bit of watercolor. And here, I believe it's almost, yes, the last. This was another figure drawing from life with watercolor, which I really like how it came out. And these were all like old practice stickers. I was like, oh, I can make my own stickers. So I started practicing all these stickers, and I sell these now in my shop. These were current like fails, but I had them printed in a much better quality, which I'm really happy with. These were all like trial experimental stickers that I had going on at the time, a few years back. And they're actually like really badly printed, but I just decided to put in my sketchbook as a memory. Because, you know, you always improve and it's good to have it captured. Alright, for the last spread, I don't know why this is upside down. These are just some swatches I got of new paint. And I think that was just like a portrait drawing of someone that I saw. And I started YouTube at the time, and I was doing these colored pencil drawings on toned paper. And to capture that memory of the start, I also put it in my sketchbook at the end. And that is all. So I hope you guys enjoyed this 2016 to 2017 sketchbook. I have plenty of more to show you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!